Hello and welcome back to the Author Roundup, a special segment of the Book Connection Show where we meet up and coming indie authors and talk to them about the recently released books. Welcome back again. This is Ray Walters. You know that moment when the dryer beeps, the laundry is warm, and everything seems under control until you realize you're holding one lonely sock and its partner has vanished into thin air? For many households, that's not just a nuisance, it's a running family joke, a tiny mystery that keeps coming back every laundry day. In today's conversation, we're stepping into a playful rhyming hunt for those missing socks through the eyes of a young boy who proudly takes on his big boy job of putting clothes away. As he searches closets, peeks under sinks, checks his sister's crib, and wonders about a mischievous sock monster, children are invited to laugh, imagine, and quietly learn about responsibility and problem solving, discovering that sometimes the biggest mysteries are hiding in very ordinary places. Our guest brings a background in early childhood education and linguistics, along with a love for reading aloud and making up rhymes and songs with her son. Experience that shows up in every bouncy line of this debut picture book. She's here to talk about turning everyday moments into story material, helping kids handle little frustrations with a smile, and of course, the truth about sock monsters. Please welcome the author of Silly, Silly Sock Monster, Amy Dost. Amy, welcome to the Author Roundup.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone.
It's a pleasure. Amy, congratulations in getting your book published. Your debut picture book, Silly Silly Sock Monster. Has things changed for you so far since you got this book out?
Yes, it's coming out right as the school year has started and holidays are coming up. So a lot, the time developing the book has been a lot of hurry up and do your part and then wait and then hurry up and wait. And now it's kind of all coming together.
Congratulations on that. I
Super
can see the
excited.
book right behind
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
Uh, Cleverly put. That's Silly Silly Sock Monster, a rhyming picture book about a young boy whose big boy job is putting away the family laundry. And what I like about your book is that it nudges kids toward problem solving, responsibility, and humor about every mishaps, especially the universal mystery of mismatched socks.
Yes. Everyone I've talked to have agreed, like, I have a sock monster. And, it's fun hearing everyone's stories. It's a very universal experience. I've had someone tell me, we have socks that show up at our house that don't even belong to anybody. And you just wonder how they got there.
I've had that experience too when I was younger. I'm not quite sure if you can relate, but I did wear a sock that is not a pair, or it's
Oh,
not a pair
mismatch.
at all. Yeah, if you look at me from afar, you'd see that it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, a common thing that a child would do, because
Mhm.
while they're not a pair, they actually have the same color. Both
Mhm.
are white. But if you really inspect it, you'll see that they're not a pair. More so because the other one is short.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And that
Doesn't
kind
work
of
in the summer, I guess.
experience, that kind of experience, when you're a kid, when you're an adult, you can easily ignore that, right? But when
Mhm.
you're a kid, it's like a haunting voice right behind you,
Mhm.
which becomes a source of discomfort as the day goes
Mhm.
on, especially when you're at school.
Mhm.
So when reading this book made me relate, made me smile, and I said I told myself that this one's cleverly put. The author's really creative.
Thank
Rhymes
you.
are good. So we're
Thank you
going
so
to talk
much.
about your book.
Yes, thank you. I'm super excited. It's been a long time. I've had this idea for a long time. And so it's super fun to see it actually come into the world now.
Well, but what sparked the idea for a sock monster, Amy? a sock monster who steals just one sock and
Yeah,
leaves families mismatched. Was there
yeah.
a specific laundry day moment in your own home that started it all?
Yeah, so growing up, I have six brothers, and so I grew up in a house of nine people,
Mm.
and we definitely had socks going missing all the time, and I had so I just figured it was because we had a lot of people in the house and laundry wasn't put away properly or something,
Mm.
and they just wander off. And but then I moved out on my own in my, for college and in my early 20s, and I was doing just my own laundry, and I'm a pretty organized person, and I
Mm.
still had socks go missing, and I'm like, it just literally doesn't make sense. Like, you put them in, and then somehow one doesn't come out. And so I do like to approach things playfully, uh, even like little frustrations. Like if you can find some playfulness in it, I think that's a really good way to go. And like humor and laughing. And my family is very much like that. The family I grew up with, as well as my family now. And so, yeah, so when I grew up, I realized, oh, I can't really blame having a large family on socks going missing. And I talked to other people about it when it would come up in conversation. And I decided I tend to name inanimate objects or ideas. And
Oh,
so I made up this sock monster idea. I've heard people call it different things, but I've always called it the sock monster.
all right. You chose to frame putting laundry away as this little boy's big boy job, and I kind of like it. Why
Mhm.
was it important to you to show a child taking ownership of a real household chore instead of just having a magical adventure appear out of nowhere?
Yeah, I think kids are capable of so much more than we give them credit for or think they can do a lot of the time. And part of our job as parents is to help instill life skills and help them develop them. And kids love to be helpful and useful. Kids love to contribute to the family or the group, whatever group they're in, and do something that they see the grown-ups do. So you can actually, you can have toddlers sort socks into colors, uh, and they love doing that. And sorting into colors is an early math skill. Like there's so much, and then conversation. There's so much involved in that. And in my house, we call them family jobs
Hmm.
instead of chores, because chore just has this connotation of being like,
Yeah,
a chore. It's
yeah,
something that you
yeah.
don't really want to do, but you have to do. But I like, again, with the playfulness, like I like to approach things playfully and just as something that we just do. It's just part of life. And I definitely want to send him off into the world when he grows up as someone who can do his own laundry, can cook, can
True.
notice things around the house and do something about them, like when something needs to be done. So it's all about instilling that life skill into our kids, but also letting them feel a sense of independence and
Right.
usefulness and community, as in
Yeah.
like there's different parts of the laundry. And in the book, everybody's doing the laundry. Mom's doing the laundry, dad's doing laundry, kids doing the laundry. I definitely didn't want to go with the societally typical, like mom's always doing the laundry kind of things, dad's involved, kids involved,
True.
everyone. We all play
True.
different parts.
Everybody does laundry.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I want to give you room to talk about the gentle reveal, but without spoiling too much. The mystery of the missing socks eventually leads to a very down-to-earth discovery. How did you think about balancing the fun of a mischievous sock monster with the more realistic message that sometimes the monster is actually our own drawers and habits?
yeah. So I definitely, this story has evolved over time, and that's one thing I had to think about, is like, where are we going to find the socks in the end? uh and so I wanted to add a little like mystery and adventure of the kid looking around for the socks, and kind of, how we learn to retrace our steps. Of course, in the book, he's not always looking in logical places, but he's a kid and he's having fun looking for it. And, but also at the end of the day, the socks usually are somewhere that sort of makes sense. Sometimes they're stuck to a pant leg, or sometimes they're stuck in the laundry machine. And so sometimes it does end up in an ordinary place. And again, with I think it's nice if you can be playful with a little frustration. Um, I tend to I tend to do that myself. I mean, I also tend to get, even adults get frustrated at like
Yes.
circumstances or inanimate objects. And so we can only expect our children to also get frustrated. And so to model being playful when we can. Like when I'm in the car and I get frustrated with the driver, I'll usually like sing song, like, what are you doing? Just to model that you can speak your frustrations or whatever, but you can still problem solve and keep yourself calm in the moment.
Right. Amy, I believe your professional background is a big part of what makes the text work for little listeners. So the story moves in a playful rhyme that's clearly meant to be read aloud. So how did your background in early childhood education and linguistics shape the way you chose words, rhyme, and repetition in this book?
Yes, I have always loved rhyme and rhythm and books that are fun to read out loud. I also write music, and so there's like songwriting in there as well. I know that when I was a preschool teacher, toddler teacher, I would have loved to have this book to read out loud.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to read it to more children now that it's out in groups. Um, and yeah, like these books that have rhyme and rhythm, whether it's Dr. Seuss or the Bear Snores On series, I love that book. Those books, the way that she uses rhyme and rhythm, they are really a great place to start with young kids who are developing language, because there's a reason we use rhyme and fun sounds, because it helps kids to recognize different sounds in words and hear the different syllables as they're
Mm,
developing language. And it's also predictable, and
yeah.
that helps them feel more comfortable exploring with the different sounds. Because I think this book can be read to a lot of different ages and different
Yeah.
stages of language development, but everyone loves a good rhyme. Yeah. And
Yeah.
a bouncy rhythm. Yeah.
Yes, that's one way for us to remember something. When it rhymes and it's bouncy, it's catchy, it makes recall better. And that's nice because this book of yours is infused with lots of good values. And subconsciously, when they're recalling it because of the rhyme and the cadence, that's what
Mhm.
I think is the cherry on the top. If they
Mhm.
if our listeners and our viewers will buy a copy of your book, that is definitely what they're going to get out of it.
Yeah, there also in the book, there's the part that introduces like silly, silly sock monster is kind of a refrain that happens a couple times in the book. So even in
Mm.
my own family already, we'll be like, silly, silly sock monster, what have you done? And we'll do the little rhyme together. And having a trigger to something that you find funny and amusing in a frustrating moment is really helpful, I think.
And that's nice when we teach kids how to regulate their emotions at a very
Mm-hmm.
early age.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we're taking things lightly, but we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to look at frustrating situations from a different perspective. We're
Absolutely.
able to think clearly.
Mm-hmm.
When you're younger and you're able to practice that, you're able to carry that to adulthood,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
For
Right.
sure.
When you pictured grown-ups reading Silly Silly Sock Monster with children, were there particular lines or scenes you imagined them lingering on, hamming up, or coming back again and again?
Hmm. Yes, that refrain that I mentioned, the silly, silly sock monster,
Yeah.
that one is really fun, and I can see the kids, saying it together out loud with them. Or I've always read very enthusiastically and expressively when I'm reading books. My mom does that as well, growing up, and when she visits and she's reading to my son, I'm like, yeah, maybe I got that from her a little bit. My son also reads like that, and so when I had the final manuscript, it was so fun to have him read it out loud. He's 7.5. And so to have him read it out loud was just so fun. And I also love books that have fun little things in the pictures for the kids to find.
Yeah.
So when I was working with the illustration team, I asked for specific things to be like, there's one scene where he's looking in a linen closet for it.
Yeah.
And I asked them to put different things like a bunny and like a pacifier and various things in the closet. And you can interact and pause on that page and ask what they see. Like, can you find the owl? And
Yeah.
can you find, stuff like that and get them engaged in the book. And then one of my other favorite illustrations is there's a line about a sock garden patch, and the illustrators drew a literal garden using socks. And so there's like sock cabbages and sock carrots. And it's so cute.
That's very creative of you, Amy. We, we see the boy working alongside his mom and even peeking into his sister's crib during his sock search. How did you think about portraying this family dynamic and the way siblings and parents quietly shape a child's world, even in a light, funny story?
Yeah, you can see that, mom is talking to him about, she tells him about a sock monster because he notices that all the socks aren't there initially
Yeah.
in the beginning of the story. And so she takes him downstairs to this basket that says lonely socks on it, and she tells him about the sock monster. And then he takes the initiative and goes around and tries to find it. And like mom's not following him, dad's not following him. He's doing this little hunt on his own, like I can
Yeah.
find this. And then, they're doing laundry for days on end, as it says in the book. And so you can see them all wearing mismatched socks eventually. That's another fun thing to track in the book, is how they start getting mismatched socks or bare feet. And um his little sister is taking a nap, and so he wants to look in there, but he does wait until she's done sleeping to respect her space. And there's a scene where he's playing with his little sister, and he's kind of he's telling her about the story while she plays.
All right. Uh, what's on my mind right now is that sock monsters could easily be frightening. But in your book, the monster feels more silly than scary. How
Mhm.
intentional were you about keeping the tone light so, kids laugh at the idea of a sock monster instead of being afraid of one more thing hiding in the house?
That's a very good question. I definitely was intentional about that and thought about that a lot over the years. I liked the phrase sock monster, but how do I do it in a way that's not scary? I was definitely a sensitive kid with a big imagination. So is my son, and I didn't want to, scare other kids. And the book was evolving and I was trying to think of where the sock monster would hide things. I had different ideas. One of them, I was like, we had a basement laundry growing up, and there was a big drain. And I was like, maybe they go
Yeah.
in the drain. I'm like, no, that's scary. Or in the washing machine itself. And I was like, no, I don't want to scare them. So I did add the silly part of it. It wasn't always a silly sock monster. But then I think the rhyme and rhythm also contributes to it feeling playful. Um, so it's just a silly, funny thing. And also having a monster that is funny and silly can also maybe help children eventually think of other monsters as fun and silly and maybe not so scary.
All right. Amy, this next question is for me quite important because kids really do feel big emotions over little
Mhm.
things, right?
Mhm.
For a kid, what can be a small problem for an adult is insurmountable from a kid's perspective. So here, the boy gets more and more mismatched as the socks disappear to the point
Mhm.
where he says he dresses like a clown. How did
Mhm.
you work through that feeling of frustration in a way that turns it into something playful instead of letting the story get stuck in annoyance?
I definitely think that when kids get frustrated, it's just as valid as when we get frustrated, even if it seems silly to us or not a big deal. I mean, nobody has ever been calmed down or reassured by saying it's not a big deal, or,
Yeah, true.
stop getting so upset. So I definitely believe in validating kids' feelings and helping them name them as well. Like, this is frustrating. Where are the socks? Those are your favorite blue lucky socks. Where did they go? And helping them. One thing we say in our family is we're a problem solving family. When we're getting frustrated, and are, they get in this mindset of, oh, this is never going to get fixed. We'll say we're a problem solving family, and we, take a breath, and we learn to take breaks too. Sometimes if we're looking and it's frustrating, if it's not urgent, we'll say, let's just put this task down for a minute, do something else, and then we'll come back to it later.
Your main character keeps searching closets, under sinks, the crib before finally finding the missing match in a very ordinary place. What do you hope this story teaches children about noticing patterns, staying curious, and not giving up when something doesn't make sense at first?
Yeah. Um, I I do think that this story shows persistence and resilience, that kids can learn. Persistence is a word that we introduce to our kid pretty young. Uh, I have friends who sometimes, or you meet people who sometimes think that you can't use big words around kids, but if you use them enough, they really get it. And so we do make an effort to notice out loud when he's being persistent, like, oh, that Lego tower fell over and that was really frustrating, but you were really persistent in putting it back together. And that's something we teach in our house too, as far as being persistent and also noticing. We have this phrase that I've heard online somewhere about notice and do. And so I do encourage him to notice something and do something about it when there's like something's missing or something's not put together right, or there, your coat's on the floor. I see your coat on the floor in the entryway. What can we do about that? And again, with just back to the sense of independence and responsibility and taking initiative to take care of things, that he can figure out himself, because he is the one who eventually finds the socks at the end of the book.
All right. This time, Amy, let's talk about your creative process, hopefully to encourage aspiring writers and parents in the audience. You've turned something as ordinary as laundry into a full adventure. How do you train yourself as a writer and as a parent to notice story ideas hiding in the daily routine, things that most adults might just, push past?
Mm. Yeah, I ever since my son was a baby, I've always narrated like what I'm doing, and just talked to him. And the kids that I've met over the years that have really big vocabularies or are very conversational, are the ones whose parents talk to them all the time. So I
Mhm.
definitely am a huge fan of talking and reading to your kids all the time, or kids that you take care of, and you'll be amazed at how well they pick it up. Of course, everyone develops in different at different paces in different areas, but
Yes.
uh, you can't go wrong talking to your kids a lot and reading to them.
All right. Amy, I want to invite you to translate a story into real life practice. If a family finishes silly sock monster and heads off to do their own laundry, is there a simple conversation, game, or new habit you secretly hope they try because of your book?
I think this is the kind of book that kids sometimes will read and then want to go do it immediately. So I know when I read stories about cooking or different kinds of activities in the house, my son will immediately be like, let's do this. And so perhaps it'll help kids be more interested in like helping with laundry, whether they have done it already or whether this is a new task. And again, like you can have kids start sorting laundry when they're young toddlers, sorting matching socks and stuff. And um and so hopefully that will help the families to be like to remember, oh, it's a good idea to help or have kids help with laundry.
Yeah.
A lot of the times when we're teaching these life skills, obviously we could do it quicker. We could sweep quicker. We could clean the counter quicker, or dishes or laundry, whatever it is. But it teaches our kids life skills by allowing them to do it. And so just involving them in the tasks. So just a reminder to parents that they can involve their kids in tasks like this, and that it can be fun. It doesn't have to be something that feels like punishment, or something that is, you
True.
know, yeah. And And then also with the rhyme, again, the rhyme from the main part of the book is really memorable. And so when that does happen inevitably and you lose socks, you can go back to that rhyme and match them. You can develop your own family routine of what you do with missing socks. People handle it all differently. In the book, there's a basket that says lonely socks on it, and some people do that. Lately, I've just been putting my own socks that are mismatched or lonely, putting them back in my dresser because I know eventually they'll make it back there rather than keep running it through the wash.
Right. Amy, before we close this interview, where can our viewers and listeners grab a copy of your book?
So the book is available online at Amazon and at Barnes and Noble. You can go to your local bookstore and ask them to order it because it's in the system that all bookstores order through. And the book will also have a website. We're currently, as this is being recorded, still working on the website. So, so hopefully that can maybe go in the description later when we have the official website book. And then I also have an Instagram for the book. It's at Sock Monster Book.
Amy, finally, to close this fun conversation that we're having, when children close this book and go back to their everyday lives with or without matching socks, what's the one way you hope they see their world a little differently because of this story?
Um, Hopefully they can learn that some of these little tiny frustrations in life are things that everyone experiences,
Yeah.
and that helps a little bit with it being a little bit less frustrating when you realize that you're not the only one who loses socks or you're not the only one who makes mistakes. We all make mistakes or have difficulties, and those are things that we can talk about with each other and laugh about, like, oh, sock monster or whatever the problem is, and share in that just community feeling and solidarity,
Yeah.
and and also learn how that you can deal with some frustrations with a little bit of playfulness sometimes.
Amy, such a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much for discussing your book with us.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
The pleasure is mine. I also want to give a big shout out to our awesome viewers and listeners for joining us for this interview. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations on the Author Roundup. I'm Ray Walters. Join me next time as we explore the world of supported self publishing, one indie author at a time.